Recording live from the Capri Campers Mobile Podcast Studio and Community Development Center. This is the Small Truck Campers Podcast, where we aim to build community, share inspiration, and encourage others. We've got a lot of great things to cover on this episode, so why don't you grab your favorite campfire beverage and let's hit the road. Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of the Small Truck Campers Podcast. I'm super thrilled that you're joining me today, and welcome to the first episode of 2026. Could not be more stoked to bring you an awesome podcast to start off the new year and catch up about where we're at in terms of the community. The last few months, it's been a little silent on the podcast front, and recapping the end of 2025, man, it was super busy for me for work, some events, and I just needed to take a little break from the podcast while enjoying time with friends and family. So 2025, it ended great. September, we got to borrow a four-wheel camper, flatbed rig. It was a 2025 Ford F-350 flatbed with a 2025 Hawk on the back. And they were courteous enough to let us borrow that on a road trip up to Bend, Oregon for our friend's wedding. So we did that road trip. And then a little more than a month later, we went right into the rig roundup, which was just incredible. It was such a fun experience. And this year was just truly magical. We had rigs from as far as Portland, Oregon, and San Diego come up and come down. And the weather was perfect. The waves were good. The mountain biking was all time. It was just such a good vibe. It's so cool to be at an event that's not like sales focused or expo focused, just good people hanging out, having a great time, talking about rigs, sharing tips and tricks, and then gathering around the campfire for some drinks and just some laughs. And I am just thrilled for 2026's Rig Roundup. It's already on the calendar for November 7th, 8th, and 9th. And we'll be doing a lot more marketing and advertising to get the word out. So do put that on your calendar. I would love to see you up here, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. It's a truly fun event. So I'll be pushing that out again later on in the year when it's coming up a little bit more, and be trying to get the word out more because I'd love to see you there. And then after the rig roundup, man, it was just kind of recovery time. It took a lot of energy to pull that one off, and I needed just to take a step back. My full-time job was getting just really busy going into the new year, trying to get a bunch of stuff wrapped up before 2025 was over. And it got me thinking, like, what do I enjoy doing? What do I love doing with this community? I love sharing rig pics of creations that either people built or they've assembled or they've come across. And I love doing the podcast. So going into 2026, my goal is to do one podcast a month. I think that's a consistently good goal. So the theme for 2026 is going to be less content output, but higher quality. It's going to be an exciting year for Small Truck Campers, and thanks so much for tuning in and just joining along this journey. Without any further ado, let's pivot here and get into my podcast guest, Carson Gill. He's out of San Diego, California. You have probably seen his rig. I've posted it more than once on the Instagram page because it's super inspiring, and he's great. We have a great conversation here coming up, so let's get that rolling. So I have Carson Gill on the line. He's calling in from San Diego, been down there for a while now. And you may have seen his rig in some recent posts. It's a pretty legendary 7.3 Super Duty with a couple different campers on the back. Right now he's got a four-wheel camper. But Carson, thanks for making time and welcome to the Small Truck Campers Podcast.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's sick to be a part of it. I've been following your stuff for so long. It's like, yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome to hear. I'm stoked we can make time. This is the first one of the new year. And it's always good to sit down and have a conversation, even though it can be difficult to schedule sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Happy 2026, man. Stoked. This is going to be a good one.
I think so, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
We were talking briefly, but recently you ran into somebody in Yosemite. I kind of want to kick it off with that story.
Yeah. So we were just talking about, rigs and, what you're going to do next always. And I ran into Jonathan Yench, which I've been a big fan of his for years. He's a YouTuber. I'm sure a lot of your followers know him, but so I ran into him on a trip to Yosemite and I was talking to him and then we were chatting online and we were talking about, he was asking about, because I had a Bigfoot prior on my rig and he had rebuilt a Bigfoot and then he was talking about the foil camper. He was asking about what I thought about him. And I was just like, dude, rigs for me is like, it's always the grass is greener. I feel like, you know what I mean? There's just so many options and they're all so cool. And I don't know if there's ever the perfect, 100%, but right now what I have, I really like, the pop-up checks a lot of boxes for me.
Yeah, so let's just bring viewers or listeners into the rig if they haven't seen it. It's what year Super Duty?
Yeah, so it's a 2001 F250 7.3. It's a super cab short box with the ZF6, so manual transmission. right now on the clock. So I bought it with just over 100,000 miles, and right now it's got 135. And I just don't, I only drive it for, it's my, it's a trip rig. I live close to work and I don't do a lot of like commuting or anything in my truck. So I put all my miles on it when I travel.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, the 7.3, obviously enough said about that. I'm sitting
Yeah.
in my OBS. Mine's the predecessor. Mine's the extended cab short bed, OBS style. So 97 a
Oh,
few years
dude,
earlier.
I went back and forth when I was looking for my 7.3. I went back and forth so many times on, do I want an OBS or do I want the Super Duty? And the original inspiration for my truck was John Bird's 7.3. And they did an article in like Expedition Portal or something on it. And
He had the Super Duty with the snorkel and everything,
oh
right?
yeah, dude, just
Yeah.
so sick. And he ended up doing the axle swap, and I think he ended up with a flatbed at some point. But yeah, so I ended up going with the Super Duty. But I love OBS trucks. I love square body. I had an old Ranger that was a square body that I loved. I love OBS, man.
Yeah, they're amazing to look at. They ride pretty good with some modifications, but I think for like adventuring, the Super Duty is kind of
Yeah.
superior.
A little more,
Power-wise.
yeah, a little more power, a little more. I mean, for an older truck, it's a little more tailored interiors. You know what I mean? It's just a little quieter.
Sure.
Yeah, a little more modern, even though it's still a wagon.
Totally. No,
Yeah.
it's a great platform. And you've had a lot of campers on the back, but what do you have currently?
So right now I have a 2024 four-wheel camper Hawk. So it's a front dinette. It's got a lot of the bells and whistles. So sink, stove, true. It has all the new stuff. So they did four-wheel cameras did an update to a lot of their systems in 2024. So I waited till then to purchase a newer one. But they did a Truma furnace, a Truma hot water heater, outdoor shower, obviously the front dinette. I got a sleeper in the front dinette as well, and then the king bed slide out storage, the big fridge. It's a sick camper, man. It's so nice. Like it's unreal that sits in the back of my bed. Every time I'm in it, I'm just like, this is so crazy. This is the back of my little truck bed.
Oh yeah. We were just chatting earlier before the pod too about newer like four-wheel campers and just the amenities that you can get these days and just how comfortable your camping experience can be. Obviously, it comes with a bit of a price tag, but
God, dude, they're so expensive. It's stupid. I mean, I fought that for a long time, but I value. Well, I went back and forth on buying used, but the used market for four-wheel campers is so high. Like you're talking, a 2015 that's going for $25K, and it's like I might as well fork over an extra $10,000, or at the time it was about that, and get a new one, or build it out exactly how I want it. Or you go really old and you got a lot of work to do. And I've done that with campers, and I didn't really want a huge project. I wanted something that I could use.
yeah, something kind of turnkey and not
Yeah,
you're not like hoping it works when you get to the campsite.
exactly. Yeah.
So, what are some? Well, first off, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? How'd you get into camping, or what kind of rigs did you have growing up? And I kind of want to build up the story as to why you
Yeah.
ended up with the camper you got.
Yeah, a little origin story. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, Gig Harbor, so about an hour south of Seattle, south Puget Sound, beautiful place to grow up. I grew up there and grew up outdoors. My buddy's dad was a river guide, so we grew up camping every summer with them. And then I climbed. That was like my main sport growing up is climbing. So we used camping as a medium to get to do the hobbies we wanted to do. And then backpacking, there's a lot of backpacking up there and stuff like that. So I grew up kind of in that space. And then but car camping or building out vehicles I wasn't really exposed to that until later, like my early 20s is when I bought my first truck that I kind of developed. It was a 2004 Tacoma. So first gen Tacoma, extended cab, the long bed for the Tacoma is a 6-foot bed.
Yeah.
And there was this was pre social media and all that stuff. And there was an article online or like a blog post that some dude had made. And it was this white Tacoma. I think it was a 4-door, but he had a camper shell on it and he built out like a bed and a drawer system. And
It was a short bed.
What, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
So,
no, I'm thinking the truck itself. It's that short bed.
oh yeah.
4-door.
Yeah,
First
the
gen.
4-door. Yeah. So he had built out this like sleeping platform, camper shell bed platform, and it just inspired me. So that's the first truck that I kind of experimented with, and yeah, it was awesome. I put a camper shell on it and built it out with a platform drawer system. And I was living in the South at the time, so I was living in Louisiana when I bought that truck, and yeah, the thing was sick. It was one of those trucks that, man, I wish I still had that truck, that first gen Tacoma.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny because I got my inspiration for my first small truck camper up in Washington too, but
Yeah.
at Grays Harbor,
Okay.
Westport,
Yeah. Yep.
at a surf contest. This
Oh,
guy had like a
sick.
Ranger with a like an older Bel Air, a Callan camper on the
Oh,
back,
so cool, dude.
and he was toasty dry with his heater going, changing into his wetsuit, and I was in the Ford Ranger truck, just the truck shell
Yeah.
life, freezing, trying to change in my wetsuit underneath like the little truck shell rear door,
Yeah.
and I see this guy. I'm like, the light bulb went off. I'm like,
Damn.
damn,
Yeah.
that is cool.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's funny. You had a similar Washington experience.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up so much, you know what I mean? I like my big thing was not just the camping aspect. I mean, as much as I like camping, climbing, outdoor stuff, but like having a purpose-built vehicle that anywhere you're at, you can sleep comfortably, eat something, get warm, get dry. It's just, yeah, I mean, we go to concerts, we tailgate, you know what I mean? And everything is enhanced when you have a well-built rig.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100% agree. So down in Louisiana, how long did that Tacoma last? And did you replace it or any epic adventures or kind of how'd that all end up?
Yeah, so I ended up moving back to Washington. I was working in the oil field. So kind of back to the origin story. I went to commercial dive school and in Seattle, dive resistant technology, and went offshore oil field, was a diver. And then stayed out there my whole 20s into my early 30s. And so worked offshore. And then I ended up moving back up to Washington. Was still working offshore, ended up selling the Tacoma and ended up in a F-150 for a little while, a couple other vehicles, just kind of randomly. Nothing that was like inspirational. I kind of dropped out of that, like the whole like camping rig space. I mean, I still did outdoor stuff, but it wasn't until I bought a Montero. I had a Montero Sport. And so it was a 99. So it was basically a third gen 4Runner is how I looked at it, but I got it for like $2,000. And I built that thing out too. And it was a fun truck. And I took that thing all up and down the West Coast a couple times, put a couple grand into it, built it out, you know, to enough capability. And that really sparked like a new interest in me for vehicular, you know, travel, camp travel, and just like adventure traveling.
Those Monteros, that's a cool kind of sleeper.
Oh yeah. People
Sleeper
don't
rig,
know
kind of
about
like an
them.
old, kind of like an old Pathfinder or something.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah. Exactly.
fully capable, but just not marketed or never
No,
really caught
yeah.
on.
Yeah, it didn't catch on and people don't know about it. You see a lot of really burnt out ones, you know, because they're such cheap vehicles that like they're
Yeah.
just trash. So I came across one because I was getting out of like a lease that I had, and I was like, I want a cheap vehicle that's I paid for cash, and so I can save up for what would become this truck. And that was that truck, and it was awesome. I loved that truck, and I ended up making money on it too. You know, it was kind of when the used market came up, and I put a little money into it, a lot of miles on it, and then I ended up making them, you know, $1,000 on it overall. So it was sick. Yeah.
And I want to backtrack just a tiny bit to this offshore lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
So what kind of diving were you doing? And I guess that's kind of a nomadic existence as well. Like, was it 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, fly a helicopter out, or
Yeah.
what were we kind of doing on the rig? That's really interesting.
Yeah. So commercial diving, I mean, I think the general term that people understand is like underwater welding. For whatever reason, that took hold and people kind of gravitate towards that, which is a part of the job, but it's not obviously strictly that. It's salvage, it's inspections, installations, and it's all over. You have inland work, which is bridges and dams, ship husbandry. And then you have offshore oil field work, which is like heavy duty, heavy construction. And so, yeah, so I went to dive school, got my ADC, my American Diver's card, and then got hired on with a company called Cal Dive out of Louisiana and worked in the Gulf of Mexico. So you're working diving, you're not really into a strict schedule most of the time, but you're working, you know, weeks on and weeks off at times. So you're living on boats or rigs and setting up dive platforms, spreads, and then doing all kinds of different work. Insane job. So much fun. Yeah, I mean, like the ultimate way to get your, you know, cut your teeth as a young dude. You know, I was 20 years old when I went offshore, and it just, you know, definitely established my work ethic and and the way you live your lifestyle. You get addicted to that lifestyle pretty quickly. It's like, you know, you're working hard and 7 days a week, 14-hour days, weeks at a time. You build a lot of camaraderie with the guys you're working with, and then you get time off, and you get like legit time off. You know, you take a month off and you go do whatever you want. So yeah, that lifestyle is very, very addicting. And then when I was in my mid-20s, I ended up kind of transitioning from diving into ROVs. So still subsea in the same field, offshore oil field, but ROVs are remotely operated vehicles. So anything deeper than where humans can go, divers can go, let's say 1,000 feet roughly, these end up taking up that space. And you're flying these big robotics down deep water and doing kind of the same stuff, construction, heavy construction, supporting the oil and gas industry. So, and that
Wow.
was, an advance in career and more scheduled. So I was working once I got into ROVs, I was working 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. So 6 months out of the year, and they're flying you from wherever you live back and forth to wherever you're going offshore. And then you catch usually a helicopter or a crew boat out to a rig or a work boat. And then you do your hitch, and then you come back and you have time at home.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah. Sick job. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah. No regrets. I'm really glad. I mean, I kind of got a kick in the butt when I was younger and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I didn't want to go to college, didn't want to do any traditional route. And I ended up getting into it and just shaped my life from there. So.
And is the longevity for diving, is that like a career or is that more like a short-term position? Short-term being like 5-10 years because of just like the hazards associated with it?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely guys who make it a career for sure. We had guys who've been off, commercial divers for 25, 30 years. It depends, man. There's so many factors. Number one is there's the physicality of it and what it does to your body. Everybody's different. You can have a perfect dive and get bent, and you can have a bad dive and not get bent. And the bends is a hazard when it comes to decompression underwater. But yeah, so I mean, like everybody's physicality is different. So people can have a long career as divers, and then some people can't. And then also it's a lifestyle thing. As addicting as that lifestyle is, it's also very unique and very specific to that subset of the culture. So like, families, friends, lifestyle. I mean, my entire career up until what I do now, when I left the oil field, I worked on offshore. So I never went home at night when I was working. So I either was working long hours full time on boats, or I was at home 100% of the time. So that's a very unique lifestyle to kind of navigate in our society.
Yeah, definitely has its advantages, and also it can get difficult the older you get.
Yeah.
When like dates, anniversaries, birthdays, family things, it becomes more important, and it gets harder and harder to say no.
Yeah. You miss a lot,
Yeah, you miss a lot.
And it's, how I looked at it, I left the oil field when I was like 31, 32. And I was still young enough to establish myself somewhere else in another career. So I was like, I could do that now, or I could wait. And no matter how cool your job is, no matter how adventurous it is, it can become still a job. You know what I mean? You're still clocking in. And the guys I saw who were 40, 50 years old, a lot of them were just counting down the days till they got to go home. And I didn't want that to be, my life. That was a portion of my life and I loved it, but I was ready for a change. And that's why I made it. But yeah, I mean, there's still times I miss that lifestyle for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. And then when you're home, like you said, you're off, so you can go adventure, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you have a real time off. Yeah, you have a real time. You clock in, clock out. You know what I mean? No stress when you're home,
Yeah.
You can explore hobbies. I mean, there's so much that I was able to do with that time off.
So, yeah, life at sea, it can be rough, it can be taxing, but you got out, you did the ROV stuff, and then what brought you down to San Diego? How's that working out?
So I was still working offshore when I moved here. I ended up buying a condo downtown, and I always said I wasn't going to move to California, but if I was gonna, it would be San Diego. Because I mean, I've always loved San Diego. I've been visit here, a handful of times growing up. And so anyways, I ended up buying a condo, still working offshore, and I was just flying back and forth. But that kind of moving here kind of really changed my perspective. I was like, dude, I want to be home. I like this place. I like where I'm at. And I want to build friendships, build kind of some roots. And because I've been basically moving around since I was young. And so I ended up, one of the guys I worked with offshore, my buddy Russell, he was the captain of one of the vessels I worked on for a couple of years. And he was from San Diego, and he ended up getting a job at the port of San Diego. And so this was a couple of years before I left the oil field. And when I started kind of really hunting for my secondary career, my alternate career, I ended up coming across this job for the Port of San Diego, and I reached out to Russ. He's like, yeah, that's what I ended up doing. And so, yeah, just, the stars aligned, and I ended up getting just an unreal opportunity to apply. And, it took me about a year to actually get this job. But so since then, I've been working for the port. And it's a sick, it's just a unreal gig that I got. So
And that's like harbor patrol, harbor master.
so it's actually technically wharfinger it's an archaic term. It probably hasn't been actively used since the early 1900s, but basically the wharf master, you'd equate it now to like terminal operator. So we're in charge of the cargo, the cruise terminals in San Diego Bay. So we have two cargo terminals, one's for cars and one's for cargo. And then we have a cruise ship terminal in San Diego. And basically there's 12 wharfingers and there's 3 marine terminal supervisors. And so we oversee all of those operations. It's a generalist job. It's definitely not a specialized job. There's, it's a variety of things we're doing. There's a security aspect to it with the Coast Guard regulations for terminals. There's an operations management aspect to it. You have a ton of different parties who are working on cargo terminals, longshoremen, stevedores, shipping. You're dealing with the maritime industry, so you're bringing in cargo ships, cruise ships. You're planning where they're going to berth, how they're going to berth. You're talking to bay pilots and bringing them in. So the union job, waterfront work, it's sick. I work 4 days a week, 3 days off. State government, all the perks of that, pension and all that stuff. So it's a dope gig. I mean, I will say, like, compared to what I used to do, it has no match on the challenges that I used to face. But the lifestyle is a huge perk to it for me. As I go home every night, I work 30 seconds away from my condo. And so there's a huge lifestyle benefit to it. And then it's also a good job. It's interesting and it's fun to be good at shit. You know what I mean? So like whatever you're deciding to do, get good at it and you'll probably enjoy it.
I love it. Yeah. What a great lifestyle too. And I lived in San Diego for a while down in South County or Mission Beach, La Jolla, that whole zone.
Okay. Yeah.
Been downtown a ton of times. So that's a beautiful area. And to be able to live down there, work down there, it's perfect. Perfect, honestly.
A sick home base for sure.
Yeah. So let's plant I want to kind of figure out how you settled on the 7.3, how you found it, what you're kind of looking for in a rig, and if any other rigs you went through to get to there, and then also the kind of the various setups you've had on that thing.
Yeah. So, chicks dig 7.3s. So that's the number one, right? Like the sound, No, it's just, I kind of mentioned earlier is I got inspired. I saw John Burt's and that really inspired me. I saw that, but I kind of was always a Toyota guy. Like, I think if I lived down under, I'd be a 70s troopy guy, Land Cruiser, but we don't get the good Toyotas here. We get Toyotas, but we don't get the good ones, so we're as good. So, and then the domestic thing, full size domestic Ford is just, it's, I don't know, there's nothing more American, right? And so I'm a big fan of that platform. And then once you're narrowing down what you're looking for, what you like, then you got to get more and more specific. I'm hunting, I've always bought used vehicles, never bought anything new. And so when you're hunting a used vehicle, the more specific you can get, the better, because then you can really filter, see as much as you want, exactly where you're going to be, what you're going to be paying for what. So yeah, it took me probably 2 years of actively, I'm a marketplace guy. I love being on marketplace and Craigslist. So I'll go on that every single day, regardless if I'm looking for something or not. And so I really enjoyed that process of searching for exactly what I'm after. So it took me about 2 years to find this truck. I was looking, very specifically extended cab or super cab, short box. And then manual was a huge perk. I wanted a manual transmission, especially throwing gears in a heavy duty diesel. You don't get to do that if you buy a modern diesel. So that was an attractive thing for me. I really wanted a manual. And then obviously pre-emission, the 7.3 was, the longevity of it, the somewhat the rarity of a lower mileage one that hasn't been worked. What's so cool about them is that they've been worked so hard and they're still running. You still see so many around, but finding one and then building it into kind of a more specific niche, which is an adventure vehicle, is cool. It just checked all those boxes for me. And I knew, I don't have a family, me and my girlfriend, but we traveled and then I had 2 dogs for a long time. And so the super cab's perfect for that. I threw the rear seats, built out boxes, storage platform, dog platform, all that stuff. So
Did it come lifted with like the ARB bumper and all that stuff?
No. So I bought it bone stock, grandpa truck. It was 103,000 miles. I flew up to San Francisco. My sister's up in the Bay Area, so it worked out. So I flew up there and drove it back down. And it was just it's just one of those, if you bought enough used vehicles, when like everything strikes. The buyer's good. You guys trust each other. It's like good conversations. And then I got it. I've always inspected vehicles or had somebody inspect a used vehicle for me. And so I got it inspected up there, flew up, looked at it, obviously bought it, drove it back down. And then I just kind of started, I had a to-do list of items that I wanted to do mechanically, make it sound. There's things that I wasn't planning on doing that I've done, like tuned and stuff. I wasn't going to tune a truck. I actively looked for a non-tuned vehicle when I was looking for this, which I'm glad I did, but I ended up putting a hydro tuner in it, which is game changer for this truck. It's so nice. And then, the lift, I ended up, the leaves were pretty much shot on it when I bought it. And so I ended up in Escondido. There's a company called North County Springs. Tony, he's been building custom leaf packs for forever. And so I took it to him and I, kind of gave him what my plan was. So that was one of the first things I did that, new tires, new wheels, all the, basic stuff. And then did this rear seat delete, built it out. And that's kind of gone through a couple iterations at this point. ARB bumper, I talked about it earlier, is that Tacoma that inspired me along like many years ago. I remember that guy had an ARB bumper on that Tacoma. And I've always been like, oh, if I ever get a rig that like can house a sick ARB bumper, I'll buy it. And that was on the list. So I bought a brand new, installed that on the street in San Diego, like I do all my work, I live in a condo, so I got to make it work. So so ARB front bumper, and then, some lighting, 13,000 pound winch in the bumper with synthetic, and then rear bumper that came later too. I did a couple different configurations, Rear bumper's aluminous, so they're out of Santee. They make a lot of like Sprinter stuff now, but they used to make a lot of like Econoline and Super Duty parts. And so I ended up getting a hold of one of their sales guys, and I somehow convinced them to build me. Well, they still have the plans obviously, but build me a rear bumper that they used to make. So
wow,
yeah, it was sick. And then I got a discount on it because they cut out the lights wrong. So it was a good deal.
Perfect.
Yeah, right. I was like, yeah, dude, I don't care about lights.
So what kind of, like, what were you envisioning with the truck? Like a pop-up camper, a hard shell camper? Where were you like planning to go?
I mean, four-wheel camper was the original, or pop-up camper. Four-wheel camper would have been like, when I first looked into it, but they're so expensive, and I wasn't sure. And then I went back and forth a lot on whether I wanted a hard side or a pop-up. And because I basically had zero experience with either of those. All I've ever ran was camper shells. So I ran a camper shell on this truck with like a same system that I've had in other vehicles, is like a drawer system and a sleeper and shit like that. And it was cool, but it was, it was too much for that truck. Like there's no reason to have this truck. That's how I felt. It's like, there's no reason I'm mobbing around in a 2001 7.3 with a manual transmission if all I have is like a drawer system in the back. This thing needs a load on it, and I got to use this truck for what it's for. So I came across a Bigfoot, a 99 Bigfoot that was for sale in Southern California. And I ended up buying that kind of like spur of the moment. And it came across, and I had been looking at Bigfoots too. They were kind of on the Northern Light Bigfoot if I was looking at hard sided, and then a couple of the pop-up options if I was looking at pop-ups. And this one came available and I pulled the trigger on it, and it was sick. So my first my first real camper on the truck was the 99 Bigfoot.
Yeah, it looked really good on the truck too.
Dude, it's so sick.
I love the front of those things, like the front over the cab.
They're big. I mean, they're Bigfoots. They're big,
but they're just like, it's like a big ship or something. Just like the bow and like the big like bridge up on it,
Yeah. They're so cool, man. This thing was awesome, dude. I don't know. I mean, I still go back for it. I miss it. I think we talked about that when we first met, is because you had a 6-pack for sale, and I was like, I don't know, dude. I still want. A hard side, it has so many attractive qualities to it that I really liked about it. So yeah, the Bigfoot was sick. It looked good. It was well maintained. It was in good shape for $99. I got a good price. I got it for a good price. So I ended up doing a lot of like interior renovations to that thing, just like cleaning it up. I gutted a lot of parts of it, and then rebuilt it, put, a better table. There's just things that it needed. It was a 99. It was kind of worn. So, and then just threw some, aesthetic touches to it too, LED lights and, some rope lighting and all that shit. And it was just, it was a sick truck, but it was too heavy for it. It's too big for me, for what I like to do, like I'm not rock crawling my truck, but I like to not be limited by the camper. And that thing, I took it up to Mammoth for my first winter in it and immediately, got it just buried in snow and was 10 hours to get us out, So just that. And then I ripped off a jack, running through some boulders. I mean, a big, off camber positions on that thing were terrifying. Dude, it's so tall,
Yeah.
It's just like, so it was sick. But I knew as I was using that thing, I knew that like the next purchase was going to be a low profile camper.
Yeah, lots of advantages to the hard-sided, but also it raises that center of gravity up pretty high. And yeah, you get off camber, you get on some windy roads. And with the manual too, you're like constantly working the thing to be in a good like coasting speed and acceleration combo, because my truck's manual as well. So
okay, sick. Yeah.
It's, I don't know, they're difficult to manage sometimes, the weight, even though, or just like the height of it. I don't know. It's just difficult to manage unless you're like, on the I-5 just cruising without traffic. It can be difficult unless you have the proper sway bars set up, the proper springs and the proper shocks and all that stuff.
Definitely. I think, and I think it's, it's use case, you know what I mean? There's certain use cases where it's absolutely ideal. I think if you're doing a lot of winter, like that's what your main goal is for a camper, is like ski, snowboard shack. I mean, you're not going off road in the middle of winter, you know what I mean? So if you're parking on pavement, and especially like if you can run a flatbed with a hard-sided and you have the outdoor storage, I mean, they're so sick, dude.
Yeah.
And there's just so many perks. But we do a lot of summer camping, and we do a lot of, we do all dispersed basically. And we're not doing crazy trails, but everything is tight, low, low hanging trees and off camber, situations where with a lighter weight and a pop-up, you don't even notice it. It doesn't restrict me at all, which is sick.
Yeah, totally. So let's talk about the mental process of going for a brand new camper. What other options were you looking at? Yeah. And at what point did it just kind of make sense?
I don't know if it ever makes sense. It definitely doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean,
it kind of makes sense.
It kind of makes sense. You did a tour on YouTube, and I think I commented on it. I was like, all right, so does it warrant the $40K price tag or whatever they're at? And it's like, I don't know, does it, it's what they cost, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, no matter how annoying it is, but it's like, what shit's costing, And so, and they're all around the same. And I wasn't going to buy a Palomino, cause it's like, I definitely don't want to buy something that cost me $20,000 and then a year later end up getting rid of it. You know what I mean? Or wanting something else, even though that's kind of my mentality anyway. It's like grass is always greener. So I looked, ever since, for years, I've been looking at four wheels and full campers and the used market. And I've looked at quite a few used ones, and I never could justify the price of a used one. It just never made sense because they were really expensive. $20,000+ for, I found a couple. Probably the cheapest one I ever looked at was like $12,500, and it was in rough shape. You know what I mean? That's not cheap, dude. $12,000 is not cheap. It needed so much work, and I wanted something that was, everything. It needs to be well pointed. You know what I mean? It needs to work. It needs to function, but also needs to look good. Like it needs to check all those boxes, especially when you're spending money on something and putting time. And it's a creative process too. You know what I mean? It's like you're building a unique rig that fits your lifestyle. So I ended up, I avoided going to the showroom for years because I didn't want to look at new ones really. And so I ended up in the Rancho Cucamonga location, and those guys were so cool, dude. And I walked through a bunch of them, and I was looking at the prices. I looked at so many that were out there, $25,000, and I was like, you know what? I don't know. Again, I don't think Ramsey would agree, but it didn't seem like $15,000 more was like that big of a deal. It's like, all right, I'm spending 25, might as well spend 35 or 40 or whatever, It's all, it's all floating away anyway. So, and I really wanted, there were certain things that I was like, if I'm going to get this, I'm going to spend this kind of money, I'm going to get it how I want it. You know what I mean? All these things. I'm also not going to waste money on shit either. Like, I feel like, in my opinion, some of the options are overvalued and unnecessary. So being able to build it out was really exciting. I've never done anything like that. By far the most expensive. I mean, again, I've never bought a new vehicle. This is the only thing I've ever bought that was new. So would I do it again? I don't know. I think the biggest downfall of going new is I like to work on stuff. I like to like kind of modify it myself. And this camper, I don't really want to do a lot of that too, because number one, I don't need to. But secondly, it's new. You know what I mean? I don't want to start drilling into it. An older camper, I'd be way more inclined to do that. With the Bigfoot, I was way more inclined to do that, you know? So I think that's one of those things from my perspective is that I didn't really think about, is that I do like to kind of, you know, tailor it to whatever I want. And who knows, maybe I will do that with this camper down the road, but it's still, you know, it was a big purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. But having, like you said, and I'm always looking to just, A, I'm interested. B, I feel like if I find a good deal, I like to blast it out in the Instagram community.
Yeah.
But I am always looking as well. And I agree, like the amount of like subpar campers, 4-wheel campers at like the 10 to 15 grand range is
crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, that's like a 2008 painted black camper.
Yeah.
Orange, like what? And they're like
yeah.
$11K firm. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, a lot of work's been done.
Yeah. And then, you start kind of creeping up in your mind. You're like, well, I could just, you know, the shell model starts around 2022. I could go that route.
Yeah.
Oof. But, you know, then do I want to be like engineering my own systems?
Exactly.
And, definitely, I understand where you're coming from. And at the same point, though, it makes sense. Like you have a full-time job, like you can afford these luxuries now.
Yeah.
And you don't have that brand new car payment.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, my truck's paid for. Like I paid for it. So it's like not having bills is a huge perk. And if you can keep that, like, you know, and even anything you do buy, if you do spend money on something like this, pay it off, get it paid off, or, you know, pay cash if you can, and keep your bills low. Cause then you can do the stuff with it that you want. Cause a lot of people, I think, you know, spend 200,000 on a Sprinter. Well, I can't afford the gas now to go anywhere in this Sprinter, you know? So being able to afford doing the stuff is primary, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you had the truck all dialed in. So I can see how it made sense. How was like picking it up?
I appreciate that.
I can see how it made sense. And then also the resale value of most campers, like most campers do hold their value. So,
well, and that was another thing is 4-wheel campers hold, like, because I've been looking at them for so long, the used ones, I was like, all right, well, if I keep this thing up, I mean, I kind of know how like where it'll go in the incoming years, you know, depending on the market and how everything goes. But yeah, it's going to hold its value pretty well.
So I can see how you arrived there.
Yeah. Well, you should see my financial class. Take that.
Yeah, I should. Yeah. Go buy a new camper. How's it been? And I mean, I'm sure it's been great, but it looks like you've been pretty active socially. I don't know if that's recently or maybe I just haven't been paying attention until recently, but
social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of new. My girlfriend, we've been dating for a couple of years, and she's involved in social media, Jen. And so she, like, when we started dating and then camping together, it became more and more of like a collaboration. Like it's her, you know, it was her thing, but like we were like doing it together. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, she's making a little money. We're doing trips, and all of a sudden, like, hey, diesel's paid for. I'm like, what, dude? That's an option? I didn't know that was an option. So yeah. So, and then, you know, I found it, which is all fairly new to me, is like, it's a creative outlet that I didn't know I wanted or needed, you know, and it's super enjoyable. It's like making videos. I like music. I love music. So putting music to videos and then sharing what you like to do and then having it received from people. If it's well received, like having a creative inspiration and then having it well received from people is really rewarding. So yeah, that's all new to me, but it's fun. I'm really enjoying it. It's cool. Yeah. And, you know, my generation has a love-hate relationship with social media, I think. And I think the more I become involved in it in this capacity, the more I don't see the negative of it. I see a lot of positives from it, you know, and I like that.
Yeah, when you can create and kind of share and contribute. And I saw earlier today you posted some goals for this year. It was like, create instead of consume. Don't be a witch or something. or be, I forget what that is.
There's a couple swear words in there, I think.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. I was like, witches? Yeah. Stop being a little witch. I'm like, why would you be a little witch? But yeah, I agree. When you can kind of use it as an outlet to create and to contribute to kind of like the inspiration cycle for other people to get out there and
For
they
sure,
see
dude.
your Yosemite pics in the winter and like, dude, I should like,
Yeah.
why haven't I been this year? You know,
Well, and
it's
that, I
right
mean,
there.
that's how I got inspired. We taught, the people that inspired, it's paying it forward. You know what I mean? Like, hell yeah, it's an awesome process.
Yeah. And especially you have a pretty cool situation with your schedule and the ability to go and now you have you've had the rig, but now that you have the rig kind of dialed. But yeah, I saw your recent oh, it's pouring rain here. I saw
Oh
your
shit.
recent video of going spearfishing off San Diego, kind of
Oh
making
yeah.
some food, and that was really inspiring just to see the boat with the truck and camper, and that's pretty sweet. Where was that at?
So yeah, offshore here. So I've been doing that since I moved down. Oh, when I moved down here, I kind of got started getting into spearfishing, and I mean, I've done a lot of crazy shit in my life. Like I have a bunch of skydives. I did a bunch of stuff, like especially with offshore. Like I got into a bunch of different hobbies, but offshore spearfishing in general, but particularly blue water offshore spearfishing is unreal. It's unmatched. It's so fun. Going after big pelagic fish in the middle of the ocean and then jumping in the water and shooting one, and then the whole process. Catching a fish like that and then taking it home and then eating it and feeding it to your family or friends it's a really, really fun, rewarding process. So yeah, that's cool. And then Jen, my girlfriend, she's an insane cook. So she just, sushi or like she cooks as well. And she just, and then she's down for adventures as well. So she's no experience in it, but she wants to go with me. So, and I've done so many things alone. I didn't realize how much more fun it is to do shit with people. So
Win win win.
yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, then the truck camper, with the I have a 77 Boston Whaler, so it's like,
Nice.
yeah, it's kind of the whole mentality of like, yeah, could you afford a brand new Super Duty? Yeah, you want to spend 100K on it, you can get it, but there's something cool about older shit, doing the same things that the guy spending $1 million on some sport fisher is doing, and you're in a 17-foot Boston Whaler, 60 miles offshore. That's cool. It's cool. It's uncomfortable, and that offers a different level of reward.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, what a great little boat to rip around on.
Oh yeah, it's so sick.
That thing's cool.
Yeah, thanks.
What aside from like goals, what kind of plans you got for 2026 in terms of like traveling or like content creation or like things you want to go be a part of?
Yeah, so well, we're getting slammed right now with snow. So the
Yes.
immediate future is we're going to Mammoth next. I have a good schedule. I have Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays off. So we get to if you travel and you go to busy places, you avoid a lot of crowds. So we'll be in Mammoth next Saturday to Tuesday, and we're doing Jen's doing a job. So we have some work doing for content creation for Toro. So we're actually not bringing the truck, which is unfortunate, but we're getting a car to take up there and do some videos and then some other stuff. So we're gonna be skiing next week, and then after that we'll be in Tahoe. So we do a Palisades squaw trip every year, and they're getting hammered right now too. So it'll be really good. And then every summer I'll definitely do a more extended trip with the truck. So I'm kind of addicted to Oregon, dude. Like there's so many places I want to see, but anytime I get a chance to really go somewhere I grew up there, but just something about Oregon is just magical. I love Bend, that whole area. So I got a buddy who's in Southern Oregon, and he just has all these, secret Oregonian spots that are just unreal, waterfalls and rivers. So I'll probably make our way up there. I really want to do Wyoming. I've yet to do Wyoming. It's an attractive state because there's no people. There's like, dude, it's crazy. There's no people there. It's like, it's the same size as Colorado. Like it mirrors Colorado. And I think Colorado's got like 5 or 6 million people. And Wyoming has like 200 or 300,000 people. It's
Wow.
nuts.
I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
know
nuts. So yeah, it's it's the South Island, New Zealand of the US.
that. I love it.
Yeah. So I want to do Wyoming. Yeah. I mean, and then just kind of, yeah, like kind of some of my goals are create over consume, I don't want to, we're all like Amazon pigs now. And I watched, there was a video put out, I think it was like Huckberry or something. It was a video as a photographer guy. He has a 4-wheel camper set up on a Super Duty with a flatbed. And he was talking in this video, and he was talking about, I can't remember the guy's name.
I think is it Foster Huntington?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was sick. Yeah. So he was talking about how when he's home, he's just always like ordering shit. He needs stuff or whatever. And then when he's on the road traveling, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't order anything. He just he needs fuel. He needs food. a place to sleep, and that's it. It's like I definitely that resonated with me big time because I feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I've come to that conclusion as well, that it's just simpler. Like things are just simpler on the road,
For
and your
sure.
your days are longer, your moments are deeper, and
Yeah.
it's easier to connect with people. And you're just like
100%.
you're
Yeah.
just like taking a step out of. Someone told me one time recently that like you're following are like a bunch of anomalies to society. People that
Yeah.
just want to like dip out of like modern society of like consume, buy, whatever, and just kind of live this as best as you can, but live this experience with that I feel like is richer on the road, and you just don't need like all the little doodads and trinkets that are so easily accessible.
Totally.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's crazy how much we seem to consume and then how much we feel like we need day to day, which we don't. And I think you see it in, I think, the American dream has shifted and you see so much traction towards like, van life and that lifestyle. And it's because it resonates with people. People feel that it's like, it feels good and whatever feels good, what you're attracted to, you should gravitate towards.
Ap-
It's good for people. I think it's good for society.
Yeah, 100%. I like where it's going, and I'm loving hearing the plans about 2026. Just everything we got to dive into today. So with that, Carson, I just want to thank you again for hopping on the Small Trek Campers podcast, and we
Yeah,
will
man.
stay tuned and look forward to some awesome content and some snowboard clips and maybe some Oregon experiences.
Sick, dude. Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for building the community that you've built too. I think there's no doubt it's been an inspiration to a ton of people and just featuring people and just, bringing people up, creators and people that are, building stuff. And, it's just cool, man. So
I
appreciate it.
I
I think everybody
appreciate it.
likes it. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah.
Well, we got to put the rig roundup on your map end of November or beginning of November up here in the Santa Cruz
Yeah.
Mountains. So,
Send me the details. I'll be there.
all right, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
we'll look forward to seeing you then. And until then, safe travels and have a good trip.
Thanks, brother.